What's going on, guys? Zach here, ZachEvanish.com, GetWrestlingStrength.com. Another interview sent my way. Now, how much information can you pick up from these? How much time can you invest and dig in? I take that seriously, that you guys are investing your time. So when I answer these questions, I like to pour my heart and soul into them to make sure that you're not wasting time. I understand that maybe the videos catch your attention if I light my weights on fire and do all kinds of crazy shit, but there will be a day where the basics and hard work and dedication are back as the fad. They become the in thing versus the shock and awe factor. I'm just not into that shit. I can't bring myself to being at a level where I have to shock you to entice you, because then I feel like you will never dedicate yourself to the basics. So here we go. Q&A. This is from Larry doing this for his college class. And here we go. It says, what does your education experience entail? And did you study weightlifting at school in Israel? So it looks like Larry's only got some of my story right. I can always tell who are the diehards following me versus maybe who's kind of somewhat following me. So number one, I only lived in Israel for 11 months. We moved to New York, specifically the Bronx, when I was 11 months old. And I've gone back and forth to Israel, but haven't been there for quite a long time. It's been a very long time. So education experience, the basics of school, an undergrad and graduate degree. And I was actually finishing up my supervisor's degree, which was only, I think, 15 credits when I started my journey into strength and conditioning and being a strength and conditioning coach. And what happened is at that time, I started offering, to try to help the high school in the town that I worked in. And they turned everything down. In fact, I said I wanted to put a course together where I train the coaches or where I go to the school and train the athletes. And they said, just do like a 3-hour continuing education credit for the teachers. And I started saying, man, I don't know if I could be in a place that doesn't care about the kids, because that's what this whole thing is about, caring about the kids. So that changed the whole trajectory of what I thought I would be doing. My plans were to always be involved in the school systems, because that's where my heart is connected. That's where my passion is, to help this younger generation. And then I said, you know what? Looks like I'm going to have to go and create my own school, a school of strength, if you will. So I never studied weightlifting. If you read Underground Strength book, the Encyclopedia of Underground Strength, go to undergroundstrengthbook.com. And you guys can hear my throat is always hoarse from coaching versus being a fly on the wall who doesn't actually coach. I get into that. So when I went to Israel the summer before high school, I wrote about Andre the Giant. Not Andre the Giant, the wrestler, but Andre Holzer, who was a Romanian weightlifting champion and moved to Israel in his younger years. And he was a weightlifting champion. And he had a gym in the basement of his home. And it was a public gym, so people would pay to train there. My grandfather paid for my brother and I to train there, and he was a weightlifter. And he did his own thing in the corner with nothing but a squat rack. And he was just tearing up the weights. Squat jumps with the bar on his back, power cleans, split jerks, bent over rows, hang cleans, you name it. He was just destroying shit. While everybody else was training on machines, leg extensions, tricep push downs, lat pull downs. He was training like a savage, and we were training like sissies. And you know what? He didn't give a shit. He did his thing. And as my buddy John Welburn says, nobody's coming to save you. You want to help yourself? You want to get strong? Help yourself. As far as my experience in training, I mean, I can't even tell you where it starts and ends. From all these books, all over the bookshelves, all over the floors, all over the table, books, DVDs, videos, VHS tapes, more books, More DVDs, more books, more books. So many books and VHS tapes and DVDs and conferences that I attended. The thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of training athletes, that's where my experience entails. And doing more, right? Training more than somebody else or being first, it doesn't make you the best. It doesn't make you better. So my expertise, I truly believe, comes from not just the mistakes I've made, the lessons I've learned, but having a keen eye. When I train the athletes, I understand, oh man, his foot is pointing in the wrong direction. I have to fix ABC. Or look at his physique. He doesn't have muscle mass on his hamstrings and butt and lower back. I need to fix it. Here's the plan. I always say that my brain operates in strength and conditioning, performance training, the way the brain was operating in that movie, A Beautiful Mind, where everything he saw was kind of this mathematical equation. Everything I see is some sort of a strength equation. Next question. I'm somewhat familiar with your work experience. Could you elaborate at all, beginning with maybe before you became a teacher until now? Internships to become a teacher, or maybe working at a gym even before that. What was it like opening your first gym? Then expanding soon to be 4 locations. Do you plan to expand more? Where do you see the Underground Strength Gym in 10 years? What do you look for when hiring people? So that's question number 2, but Larry somehow put like 7 questions in there. Holy shit, people. People of the earth. Okay, I'm a little fired up today, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm looking at one of my pages on Facebook, and this always happens. I write an ad. We barely train any girls, and every time I write, help your son get stronger, tougher, faster, there's women that always have to say, what about girls? I'm very, what about girls? I'm a father, I have a daughter. If she wants to train, she comes to the gym. If you're a mom and you want your daughter to train, go to the website and sign up and prove that you want to be a hard worker, not a drama queen, and ask, what about this? What about me? What about me? That's what the Underground Strength Gym is about. It's about proving yourself through work rather than making excuses. And we're in a very strange world where laziness is accepted and tolerated, rudeness is accepted and tolerated. Administration and supervisors don't want to tell parents, hey, your child, your son, your daughter is rude, makes excuses, skips workouts, doesn't work hard. We're afraid to say that, and it's pathetic. Everything around the Underground Strength Gym is based on hard work. Before I was a teacher, before I went to college, I mowed lawn. I had paper routes in 3rd grade. When I got my bike stolen, I got 2 paper routes, a morning and afternoon paper route to buy another bike. When I was 11 years old, I was a bus boy in a straight up blue collar town. And I remember working till 11:30 at night on Saturdays. Any other 11-year-olds working that late or working at all? And that's what fires me up in this world. So this video, Larry, has now become a rant because you put 7 questions into one. I get fired up, people. I get fired up and pissed off for the relentless pursuit of excellence. At 11 years old, I'm bussing tables, and an older man sitting with his wife, probably in his 60s from what I recall, says, son, come here. How old are you? I'm 11 years old, sir. Go get me a cup of coffee, and if it's not fresh, I don't want it. In my brain, I'm thinking, I've never made a cup of coffee in a restaurant before, and he just told me to go make coffee. As I walk by, the bartender says to me, Zach, don't ever tell anybody you're 11 years old. Tell them you're 13, or maybe she said, tell them you're 14. Don't ever tell them you're 11. I'm thinking to myself, I don't look like I'm 13 or 14. I go back to the kitchen. The chef, him and his wife work back there. They'd always be cursing at each other. The dishwashers were washing dishes by hand. There were these 2 Polish guys. And every time I'd carry a big bus tray, they would like flex their bicep. Boom. But then when they would eat their dinner and I would bring trays, they would curse at me in Polish. And I remember being like, oh my God, these guys are going to kick my ass because they were pretty big. And I go back there, I take the coffee, I dump it out. I look, I find the coffee grinds, I dump that out, and I just figure it out. I make coffee and I bring it back. I wasn't a waiter, I was a busboy. But that man thought I was a waiter, and he told me, go make my fresh coffee, and I did what he said. In high school, I worked many jobs. I worked at a pizzeria. I mowed lawns on the weekends. I worked at my father's work the summer before senior year. We would leave the house at 5:45 a.m. I think my hours were 7:30 to 3:30 p.m. and then I worked till 4:30 until they found out I was 16 and they posted a sign about child labor laws and told me you can't work overtime. I was working 40 hours a week in the summer. My father worked even more. He would work, we'd get there at 7 and he'd work until 6 p.m. So I'd go to his building, I'd eat and read bodybuilding magazines. Drive home, I'd eat dinner, and then I'd go to the gym. And the summer before my senior year involved no hanging out with friends. I trained Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. So I worked at a pizzeria. I worked at my father's company, which was about an hour away. I was always working. I just learned that that's what people do. You work hard. Internships, what I look for is a hard worker, responsibility, highly motivated, passionate, and a self-thinker. So somebody who's going to go above and beyond. You see a little piece of paper on the ground? Do you pass it by or do you pick it up? That's the difference between good and excellence. You see me cleaning a bench? Do you start cleaning benches? You pay attention to my coaching cues. When you start helping to coach, are you utilizing those coaching cues? Or are you pulling stuff out of thin air that you saw on YouTube? So I look for people to pay attention to the details. Why am I opening 4 gyms? Some opportunities came up. The timing and the situations, I don't want to say were perfect. They're never perfect, but they were right. We have a pretty solid team of coaches who operate for the most part as a team. And that's something that I wasn't maybe as good at back in the day. I would open a lot of doors for coaches, try to help them, and in turn, they disrespected those opportunities. Just the same as if I allow training to be done for free, nobody respects it. All the free content that you put out on your blog and YouTube, people don't respect it anymore because there's free shit everywhere. So they don't understand the difference between good and great because they think they could get everything for free. Where do I see things going in 10 years? I have no clue. And I'll tell you why. Because there's times where myself, for example, today I go through the attendance. If an athlete hasn't showed up for 3 weeks, I automatically cancel. I don't care what agreement or contract they're under. I don't want my money being made from people who don't show up, from people who aren't getting our training. I don't give a shit about anything else. That's how other gyms might make their money, but not us. That being said, I still miss teaching. I miss the schools. So if there was a local school that wanted me to go in and implant my strength and conditioning system, I would do that. But then I also understand that I may not be able to be the Zach Evnesh that I am, which is somebody who has very high expectations, who's tough on people. Because nowadays when you're tough on people, they cry, they complain, they go tell the coach that you're mean, they tell the superintendent that you're mean, and then before you know it, you're in court. So I don't even know. I don't even know what the future holds. The one thing I know is I could count on myself to work my ass off and outwork other people. So I could count on being successful. That's what I could count on. What certifications do I hold? I can't even remember. None of the big name things. I was more of a person that would attend hands-on seminars or spend a day or days in the gym with a coach, with a mentor, traveling to places to learn from them. Because I knew I would learn in a way that a certification couldn't teach me. For example, this week I've got somebody flying in, I believe, from Barbados. He's going to train with me. He's going to get my lecture. He's going to get all the Q&A time with me. Then he's going to train with the athletes. He's going to shadow me. He's going to coach under me. So that's something that is a different experience than my online certification. Why? Because things will change in the moment, on the fly. There's only so much that we can gain from a certification. That being said, I put my heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears into the Underground Strength Coach cert online. It will blow people away. I only wish I was a better marketer and a better web designer and could have better all that stuff, because the content is so freaking powerful, but the marketing, I would just say, is average. And more and more I find myself falling away from being a marketer, or other people are marketeers, if you know what I mean. What memberships do I hold? How did you put together memberships for your gym? And what does that actually take? I just created stuff because people in the early days, they wanted to learn from me, but they lived all around the world. They didn't live in New Jersey. So I always listen to what people want, and then I create and build what they want. Today, I don't know what people want. I think back in the day, I had a little bit of a better grasp. What are the everyday work responsibilities for the gyms and the internet business? How do you keep organized, and how do you keep track of everything? Every day, everything is kind of like this web of cross-marketing. The online stuff builds the trust and demonstrates the expertise of the Underground Strength Gym. The online videos and all the Instagram stuff builds the expertise and trust of people who want to learn from me from afar. So it's an everyday putting in the work thing. It's an everyday writing emails, looking at Facebook advertising. Paid advertising is unfortunately a big part of things nowadays. So it's a lot of behind the scenes work. I equate it to a Hollywood, or a Broadway show. It's 6 months of work for one night of presentation. It's so much work that people don't see or understand what it truly entails. It's a lot of work. What are the positives of being in the health and weightlifting world, and what are the negatives? The positives are that I get emails and messages every day about people telling me I've inspired them, I've changed their life. Some people talk to me about I've saved their life. And then that keeps me going for another day. The negatives are that it is like you need so much shit to just capture people's attention. It's a game that I don't really want to play. You need to be, I'm 40, so obviously I'm not the 21-year-old, 25-year-old ripped up guy that I once was. So on YouTube, you've got to be ripped, and you have to have kind of freak show value to capture people's attention, because great information no longer captures the minds of people today. And I don't want to be somebody who's playing a game and just throwing out crazy terms and shocking you. It's just not something that interests me. So I'm more along what Kevin Kelly calls 1,000 true fans, which means I just care about the people who want great information versus the people who really don't care for your information, but they feel like you owe them something. All right, they comment all over your YouTube videos telling you what you should do, how you should do it, who you should look like, your stuff sucks, you're this, you're that. And it's like, who the fuck are you? You're like some dude that's maybe still lifting with your 110-pound weight set, reading a whole lot, but you don't know anything, and you're going to put other people down to make yourself feel better. That stuff's annoying, because people like myself are here to help people. And when you try to help people, you automatically get attacked with negativity. So that stuff's annoying. So it takes a lot of mental fortitude to keep driving through that bullshit. Compensation. As a business owner, I know that could vary. When you were a teacher, did you ever, or if you ever worked for somebody else, compensation ranges? Larry, I'm not sure about these questions. They're kind of like incomplete questions. So I try to pay my coaches as good as I can, as well as I can. When I create partnerships, I try to make it more in favor of them, believe it or not. There's a lot of costs and expenses that people don't see. From all that time and energy I spend marketing, creating of videos, blog posts, writing emails, managing, communicating with people through phone, through email, through all these social media outlets, through the renting of the gym, through the management, through the purchasing of equipment. There's a lot of overhead expenses in there. So there's a lot of stuff involved. Who would I not recommend this career to? A lot of people go and quit their jobs because they love lifting. Being an entrepreneur is fucking hard. You got to decide if you want to be all in on this. And there are still times where I struggle, as you could probably tell. Man, do I want to be an entrepreneur? When you hear, people, there's so many people out there opening up gyms and parents are duped. I had a baseball player come to my gym last week. His father spent 30 minutes on the phone with me. I always know not to hop on the phone with people, but I did it. And he told me that his son went to a baseball-specific training facility. And he goes, I'm kind of concerned. My son is still skinny. He hasn't gained weight for a year. He went to the baseball facility. He lost weight. And his baseball-specific strength coach said he lost weight because his core was weak. And I did so much core work on him, he lost weight from his core. I said, wow, you just got duped. And it's not even funny anymore. There's a lot of people out there opening up gyms who don't know enough to even be good, but they're creating a poor image of what strength coaches do by not delivering results, but they're cheap and closer to home. And that's what is causing people to seek out mediocrity and accept it. Or I'll just train in my basement. And it's like, dude, you really think that as a 16-year-old, you training in your basement with your father who doesn't know anything about lifting is going to be good enough? And that's where we're at in this world. I don't want to deal with good enough. So when you're an independent entrepreneur, you don't have control over those things. But if you work in a school, you're going to have a consistent interaction with kids. And you have a better chance of changing lives. So I will say that much. What advice would I have for someone considering this career? Be ready to put in 100 times more work than you thought you're going to put in. So these questions that you've asked me, you could have researched, Larry, other podcasts I've done and had these answered. If you want to be great, it is this non-stop aggressive learning that has to be put in to be a great strength coach. And this shit is not easy. And just like any other probably arena, there are always pros and cons to everything. What I do is I focus on the kids walking through our doors. Those are the people that matter. I remember asking Louis Simmons about back in the day when I watched his VHS tapes, there seemed to be a lot more camaraderie, a lot more togetherness. I said, do you ever get a little bit upset that, you build world champions, then they leave? He goes, I don't have time to worry about people who are not on the bus. I'm only focused on the people who are on the bus. And that taught me a lesson. And every day I build thicker and thicker skin. And then your question said, why did I choose this career? Was it my fascination with old school strength? Was it the heat smacking you in the face at 5 in the morning at Diamond Gym? What do you think made you stay in this career instead of switching to something else? And what made you train mostly high school athletes instead of, say, NFL athletes or maybe a corporate coach? Larry has paid attention to some details. What happened was, I'll piggyback on what I said earlier, is I was disheartened that I tried to help the town I worked in, and their football team had 30-something losses in a row. And I said, let me train those football players. And they said, no, we've got this. And I said, wow, those kids might graduate high school never winning a football game. And here I am working in this town, and they're saying, no thanks, we've got it. Which, I would never be in business if I got 0 results for people. But when you work in schools or corporate, you could keep your job and still not do your job, if that makes sense. Why don't I train NFL athletes? If you're training pro athletes, you've got to live near where they live in those big cities. Would an NFL athlete train with us? I really don't know. Where I live, there's no pro athletes near any of our gyms. If you're going to train pro athletes or celebrities, you've got to live in the big cities. You've got to live where they live, and that's not near me. And also, I am just more connected. Not that an NFL athlete's not hungry, but I am so connected to the kid that has the hunger and the desire, but just wasn't coached up to it, and he's ready to do the work. To me, that's the kids I want to work with. That's it, Larry. Hope this helps you out. This was a bit of a rant. You've caught me at an angry moment because I'm fired up. Pissed off for greatness. That's it, guys.